wreck avoidances,
Stay low. Speed high, stay low.
daring passes,
Oh, you're gonna get it.
silly jumps,
Oh my god, a drive-through.
the thrill of victory,
They're against the wall. Good one, Mark. Stay low.
and the occasional mishap.
My sand crash.
This is the DMLC Racing Channel.
A new beginning with familiar faces. For the first time, Lionheart is going back to its roots. 18 races to determine who is the best and the most exciting form of auto racing on the planet. 200-mile-an-hour Indy cars, inches from disaster or glory. There can only be one inaugural champion, whose name will be etched into the Lionheart history books. Find out next. The Lionheart Speedway Series, presented by DMLC Racing Channel, starts now.
The Lionheart Speedway Series goes from the heat of the desert to the shadow of the Gateway Arch, but one constant remains: short track racing. It was Tony Showen that took his first victory of the season in a stop-and-start race in Phoenix to jump to the championship lead. But after a busy start to the season, today marks the start of the first break for the drivers. A full month between today and the next round of the 2021 season, but who will keep the hype train going? Here in the GraaFix eSports 200, presented by SimSnap Photography. Hello and welcome back to racespottv and continued coverage of the Lionheart Racing Series, powered by HyperX, the makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on the HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, and along, as always, here on a Monday night is Justin Prince. TV cameras provided by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson, with additional car cameras designed by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com. Live timing and scoring is powered by our partners at timing71.org. You can follow along live or replay the action from tonight by heading to racespot.wtf/Indy. Let's dive straight into our sim experience countdown to green. Like I said, Justin, it's been an exceptionally busy start to the 2021 campaign. We've had 3 races just in the last couple of weeks as well. We'll get a bit of a break after today, but I think tempers will be flaring here today.
This is the type of racetrack that brings out what should be a very talented driver, because this is a driver's track, one with 2 different types of corners at the different ends of the speedway, and in turn could potentially bring out some drivers that are going to be trying to battle hard throughout the air wash and trying to be daring, especially in turns 1 and 2, to try and make moves at the tighter end of the speedway, or try and run to the high line and get a run through turns 3 and 4. This track challenges many, but it's also one that in turn can catch many people off. Several competitors in final practice have been struggling on the turn 2 exit with the tightness of the camber of that corner exit. It's always been a challenge, regardless of the car chassis and the car type. It's going to be the same type of race, I think, tonight, where it's going to challenge even the best of the best.
And after what has been a quite busy start, Justin, I mean, all of our races have had some sort of back-to-back component through March, April, and May. I think this is a nice break. The month of May, all eyes on the Brickyard and activities trackside for the Indy 500. It does start to slow down a little bit more. The pace will kind of relent. We've seen a lot of wheel-to-wheel action and a lot of contact in some cases. This might just enable drivers to reflect and maybe relax a little bit more between round and round.
I think so as well. It allows them the chance to recharge and be able to think about, okay, we're in this position in the championship. How do we approach the next leg of the season? And try and figure out, okay, what else do we need to adjust as a driver? It allows that opportunity after tonight. But the question is going to be who will get momentum to carry forward towards that break.
We're taking a look at some of the tracks, pictures of the track action. Practice underway here. Now, looks like the grid is filling up, 25 cars and counting in the session. Let's work our way then through some of the Drivers' Championship, starting with the Drivers' Standings, presented by the DMLC Racing Channel. It is the Adrenaline Motorsports team that still leads. This time it's Ohio native Tony Showen out front, replacing Christopher, who had a very difficult race just 7 days ago. Alexis Newsom, the only two-time winner this season so far, still sits in second. The gap between first and second here today, Justin, just 5 points. It's equally close, though, as you look throughout the top 10. So this is going to be a very interesting race here today.
Yeah, last race was one that definitely shuffled up the point standings for some because drivers like Stouffer, like others such as Barrett Rolfe, had good chances to gain some valuable points since they were able to, in some cases, get themselves out of trouble up until the last few moments of the race. And now they're in a spot where they're going to be having to hope that they don't have to rely on that said race. Or, in turn, for some, it was a great opportunity to be able to jump up the points. Overall, though, Tony Showen was able to take advantage with the track position and the tires there to come away with what was an exceptional victory there.
It was. It's been a consistent start to the season for Showen. That the first victory, maybe it will spark the flame there to really propel the championship hunt forward. You can take a look at these team standings presented by HyperX. It's Adrenaline Motorsports really starting to build up a buffer. Not just Stouffer and Showen that have been consistent. Branch has been pretty quick throughout the season as well. Team Raceflers, Black and Red, they're second and third. Synergy Motorsports, I got an outfit in fourth as well as seventh. The factory back team that picked up Alexis Newsom, they are working their way up the championship standings. What can Nick DeGroot and company do here today? Also, by the way, they got Robert Malechka on board, one of our other race victors, so lots of strength for factory back. Take a look at these rookie standings presented by buttkicker here, Justin, because while Newsom leads, Van de Sant has been strong, Matt Taylor has been very strong. Someone like Barrett Rolfe, yet to taste victory in Lionheart competition, is going to get one of those victories this season, I would think. And you can even look at Dean Moll, who won our season opener back in March.
I think eventually we'll see Rolfe in victory lane. It's just a matter of luck, and unfortunately, last race, the luck wasn't there. But overall, it's been very competitive because many of these drivers are new to competition and Lionheart action. It's a chance to be able to build themselves up. For Newsom, has really been impressive in this season, especially when it comes to some of the strategy. Van de Sant as well has been also very quick. So those drivers at the top of the rookie standings looking very impressive.
I am liking, by the way, some of the side-by-side action that we're taking a look at in the background as we watch the cars working their way through the last 180 seconds here in open practice. Quick look at the series details presented by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to use the promo code Minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. Working our way through the month of May, trackside activities, of course, at the real Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll return there for the second of our Triple Crowns in just a couple of months' time. But of course, this championship battle has been so important. So interesting as well. The custom fix setup has meant a very interesting sort of racing dynamic, and as we return to this egg-shaped oval, Justin, where we've seen 3 different winners in our trip so far. I think that stat is slightly wrong there. It's going to be interesting here in the DW12 how we really see them racing wheel to wheel.
It's going to be an intriguing race because you can tell by the differences in margin of victory, especially the smallest margin. It can be fairly close. But there's also the chance if you get long runs for the track to really separate out. Up to 4 seconds, that differential with the largest margin of victory. This is a track where air wash can definitely come into factor, but it's also one where overall it's going to be where you need to try and be patient. Because this is the track that attrition can potentially spark up, as talked about in Turn 2. This is going to be interesting on how this all plays out tonight.
Christopher is the all-time lap leader at Gateway, not just in the DW12 era, but including the IR18 era as well. He has not had a victory, led a race-high 103 laps back in Season 5, not getting the checkered flag. That was his teammate Joe Branch instead. Can Branch return to victory lane just about 4 years later? Let's talk a bit about this track then. 1.25 miles in length. 1 and 2, very different, Justin, than 3 and 4. And we were talking about it before we came on air. Watch for turn 2 to be where cars maybe struggle off the corner.
In several cases, I've seen people spin around. In practice, it's been slamming to the outside wall with the banking of 11 degrees in turns 1 and 2. Bit more camber as well, much tighter end of the circuit. Then you have turns 3 and 4, which allows you to go near full throttle and allows multiple different groups to pop up. Just 9 degrees of banking there, where drivers I've seen in the past be able to utilize the very top line, trying to get some clean air and get a run off the corner. So this is the type of racetrack that is going to be where you'll see various different lines and preferences from our competitors tonight as they make their way around the circuit.
Practice comes to an end. Couple of cars taking the opportunity to practice a green flag pit entry. That will be what we want to see here today. The first 200-mile affair at Gateway as well. All previous races in the DW12, 150 miles in length. Only 4 cautions every single time we came here back in the DW12. And with the additional 50 miles and a relatively short grid, let's see if we can keep the numbers low here today and make sure that attrition is not an important factor in terms of race results. Cars rolling themselves out for this solo qualifying session. 5 minutes on the clock. Drivers get the track to themselves to set their fastest lap time across 2 time laps. After that, sometimes we do see them practicing some racing lines as well. The first cars to roll out include Trevor Malone. Jump around with him, the 69 car in the teal. Works his way then to start qualifying here. Justin, let's see what the lap time's going to be for the 69.
Keep in mind, the first lap for many is an opportunity to be able to build up speed for the second time around for the most part. You've seen he was up on the high line, for example, and in 1 and 2. You want to be a little bit lower to carry that momentum in this racetrack. Only at 25.6 to start off. The best times in practice when drivers were in solo were 25.5s.
And he's foot to the floor, almost washes up into the wall. You also saw not all the way down to the white line, In through turn 3 comes Malone. This time does paint the white line just that little bit more. Qualifying lap record back in Season 5 at 24.365. It's a 20, not even going to count there, as I think that issue through turn 1 has probably cost him big. Guyon goes to provisional pole. Let's check in with Barrett Rolfe. He's rolling himself off of pit road, and we were talking about his strength in the pre-show, Justin. I mean, what can you say? Experience in the GT Academy coming into this. He's been a revelation in the Speedway Series in 2021.
He's been very quick, but one of the struggles has been qualifying so far for him, because qualifying is also very vital and very tight, within a couple tenths of a second from the front to the back of the field. And each time, he's been able to charge his way through the pack. This time, it seems he's going to try and utilize that top line to build up speed for the second lap, not really pushing too hard on this first lap.
Newsom's now provisional pole at 25.518. Oh, that's a quick lap time, almost 1/10 clear as we get the tower up on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see the interval between all the cars. We'll get the gaps up there now as well. What's it going to be for Rolfe? It's been weak in qualifying so far, all the way down to the white line. He washes up into the wall. He'll be starting at the tail end of the field, Justin.
And that is going to make things even more challenging. A 27-second lap time. That is going to be at the bottom of the board and then some. Just couldn't get the run he needed to, try to go as low as he could, trying to keep it foot to the floor, carry the momentum. But as talked about, you carry too much speed there, you knock the wall down coming out of turn 2 and just bounce off of it. And several drivers in aero wash in race trim practice had the same issue.
On board with Malechka, race winner on his debut at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, provisional 8th. With lap number 1, we ride on board with the nose cam. Look at this angle. I really do like this all the way to the ground. He's much more controlled and much more aggressive coming down across the start-finish line. It'll be a 25.539. It's not pole, but it's good enough for third position inside of row number 2. And it's Ron Hacker who has rocketed his way up, Justin, to the outside of the front row.
Yeah, a very impressive time from Ron Hacker indeed, but a majority of the air competitors starting to make their way out into the racetrack, keeping my eye on drivers like Matt Taylor, who's been able to have speed all season long, has found his way within the top 5 to top 10 just about every single race so far. It's just been the matter of finding the luck towards the closing stages of some of the races.
Less than 60 seconds left on the clock. Matt Houston goes slow, is setting up for his fast lap time. His teammate Matt Taylor does the same. It's not going to be the quickest time for Taylor here, but he starts the most important lap of qualifying. What does he do in terms of the line that he runs? Slightly higher and off the throttle as well. Very nicely rolling his momentum in through the back straightaway, down in towards turn 3. Only 3 cars left on track for qualifying. For Taylor, this is important. Can he start up near the front? He's running up there in the championship. At the line is a 25.610. It's going to put him just on the outside of the top 10, if I do believe. Oh, inside of the top 10. He'll start then in 8th position, Justin.
Decent qualifying lap overall and a very competitive qualifying session as expected. The top runners separated by just 0.2 of a second, who were able to set 2 flying laps around the track. Well,
with that done, qualifying comes to a close. Let's go trackside to take a look at our starting grid here today in Worldwide Technology Raceway. It's the buttkicker starting grid. Alexis Newsom on pole, looking for her 3rd victory on the season, 25.518. Ron Hacker outside of the front row, just 100th separating them. Robert Malechka inside of row number 2, right behind his teammate for the factory-backed outfit, with Tony Showen, championship leader, on the outside of row number 2. Chris Fowler inside of Alex Guyon on row 3, with Paul Jenkins on the inside of Matt Taylor. Vern Hawkins and Alexander Van der Sant line up on the edge of the top 10, with Mike Rigney and Trevor Malone, row number 6. Luis Gonzalez Nunez will line up in 13th alongside Joe Branch for Adrenaline Motorsports, with Michael Hagstrom in the wonderful blue, teal, and white, alongside Nick de Groot, who's got some work to do to catch up with his teammate. He'll be looking to get that cowboy stuff out there. Craig Forsyth alongside Barrett Rolfe will line up in 18th position. Lots of work to do for the Ascari Autosport driver if he wants to take his first victory on the season, with Matt Houston and AJ Musselman, the 2 race first cars, on the edge of the top 20. Matt Wagner, Jeff Seong, row number 11, with Chris Stouffer and Dean Moll. They've got lots of work to do from row number 12. Got one more row with Charles Teed and Ken Hacker. Relatively small starting grid here today, Justin, with just 13 rows, 26 cars. Let's see how hectic the action's going to be.
It's going to be an interesting one, and keep in mind, strategy could be very important as well for some of these competitors, so watch for that as well. 39 laps expected on the fuel stints for today, and it's going to be very key to see how these drivers fare in the midst of traffic.
As always, we've got some onboard cameras to take a look at, so let's cycle our way through them as the cars roll their way off of the start-finish straight. First up, it's Tony Showen. He's got the HyperX on board. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
Then it is Chris Stouffer with the onboard, as we'll be following along with the 13th Chris Fowler, I should rather say, with the Chris Fowler Racing on board. Join Chris Fowler on his sim racing journey through his live streams. Visit Fowler Racing on Twitch.
Alexis Newsom, pole position sitter. She's got the butt kicker on board. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com. Not just those 3 cars, as always, cameras on all of the cars on the field, and some wonderful trackside cameras as well. 160 laps on the agenda here today. 3 pit stops expected as well. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and we are about to head into the first of the breaks that the drivers have had. A hectic start to the season. Only 1 repeat winner, and she is on pole looking to make it 3 victories on the season. The pace car will pull down onto the safety of the pit road, leaves the field in control of Alexis Newsom. We are green flag racing here in the GraaFix eSports 200, presented by SimSnap Photography. Great launch for the pole position sitter, but here comes Malechka already up into second place. It's a factory-backed 1 and 2 as we work our way out of turn 2.
Wonder if there's a bit of team coordination there, but that was very well timed to say the very least from the inside line. Several drivers took advantage. Tony Shalwin already looking to dive to the inside meanwhile for a top 5 position.
It's Tony Shalwin, and as well behind him, Paul Jenkins, Alex Guyon, who are side by side. Across the start-finish line, it's Newsom leading from Malechka, Ron Hacker in third, Tony Shalwin in fourth. Here side by side with Chris Fowler, who will rocket around the outside to hold on to the position. And for now, Shalwin falls into line. Let's see how this race is going to play out, Justin. How racy will they be in the opening stages of this race?
Well, that's going to be a tricky question because this is a track that provides multiple different lines, yes, but it's also one that can make it very difficult to make some moves unless you, say, get to the outside like Trevor Malone just did to be able to make a move on Vern Hawkins III. At this type of racetrack, you need to be also patient to be able to find these moves. So don't be surprised to see some drivers just try and get to that right rear tire and take away the top groove in the middle of these corners.
Side by side, Joe Branch was trying to get on past Mike Rigney, but Nunez tried to slot a move around the outside. They're getting quite checked up here as they work their way down the pit straightaway. Single file for the most part. You can see drivers just searching for some clean air. It's short track racing, Justin, but nevertheless, clean air, dirty air, it's so important to manage here today.
Especially since it can push you up towards the wall in turn 2. I've seen that happen for a couple different drivers. But a great job by Rigney utilizing the bottom. Vern Hawkins III has already dropped back 3 positions from the drop of the green flag, and our drivers are trying to get on the move. Looking very racy early on with the fresh tires. It's a matter of how long will this continue as the tires scuff up.
Van der Sant, who was in action just a couple of hours ago, live on racespottv, loses a position to Matt Taylor, who slots it down the inside of Alex Guyon. Very confident there with some clean air to work with. It looks like might have a battle on the edge of the podium positions as Chris Fowler tries to find a way on through. For the meantime, you have to look at Malone and Rigney still side by side. Small field, Justin, 26 cars, not the biggest grid we've seen today, but really, these guys are putting on a show here.
Oh, this is not going to be pretty. 3-4 wide into the corner. Trevor Malone nearly got hit by Rigney as he tried to clear himself coming off of turn 2, and that just bottlenecked everybody, and that lost a lot of momentum for everybody and lost them a ton of time to the rest of the field.
It's lost them a full second, you're right, as now Joe Branch is up into the top 10, took advantage of the situation. Barrett Rolfe is trying to do the same. He's already up 5 positions on the day. The Ascari Autosport driver next up will be Mike Rigney in front. There's Joe Branch and Vern Hawkins swapping around on the edge of the top 10. These cars have to make sure they don't check each other up too much now, Justin, because if we can take a look at a slightly different camera shot that will show us the extent of the gap to the cars in front, it will continue to grow if these guys fight side by side.
Yeah, we've seen in several cases throughout the season be up to 2 to 3 tenths already. It's been for some around that mark here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. So in our words, these drivers, if they want to catch up to the rest of the pack, need to start working together and be a little bit more patient at this point. I understand the importance of the track position, obviously, but you also need to be able to think, if you want to be able to get yourself the race win, possibly, you have to be able to stay with the lead pack. On
board with Joe Branch, who's now sniffing around the top 10. His teammates well and truly have to try and just continue this ascent that they've got, the gap that they're starting to build, in the championship standing. Stouffer is up 7 on the day, working 16th position right now. Side by side, it's Rigney in the all-white DW12. Joe Branch will hold on, I think, through turns 1 and 2. It's close between them. Here comes Barrett Rolfe to take full advantage, and Rolfe up into 12th position.
Rolfe's making this look easy. He's been able to find the clean air pockets, and as well, he's been able to take advantage of a bit of luck because there were a couple cars in front of him that nearly made contact, lost a bit of momentum for a couple competitors. So now, Rolfe just needs to, again, get himself back towards the high line, be able to pick off drivers one by one. That's the best you can do, and you can see how much speed you can carry coming off with 1 and 2 here.
Over under, here comes a 33 to the inside, down the back straightaway. Can he get up into the top 10 now? Or at least the edge of the top 10. Guyon in front is that 10th position. Rolf in the 33 manages to slot on through, and I don't think Joe Branch has enough to throw a move back. Meanwhile, out front, it is much more single file and orderly, Justin. I mean, for the two factory back drivers, what more could you hope for here? Newsom leads Malechka by just under 0.3 of a second. Ron Hacker has had a relatively clean start to the race after getting jumped on the start. Chris Fowler has held off the advances of Tony Showen.
Yeah, this is exactly what Factory Back wanted to see, I think, for this race today. They've been looking consistent. They've been looking calm, cool, and collected up at the very front of this field. They've been able to coordinate things and be able to find the right pockets. They're near dead even, in fact, on the lap times up at the front. 25.8 at the moment for both your top two drivers. Compare that to Nick DeGroot. He's back in 18th position, still stuck in traffic.
Look at the shot that we get down the main straightaway. You can just see the difference. It's now up to 1.3 seconds between Paul Jenkins and Alexander Van der Sant. Let's check in with Van der Sant, who is trying to pull away from Vern Hawkins. And these guys have a bit more separation now from the likes of Alex Guyon, Mike Rigney and company, who continue to scrap it out on the edge of the top 10. And they're too wide as Rolf looks to the inside here, Justin. He's finally going to get his way up into that top 10 here today.
Just needs to be able to clear them by. That's the tough part, though. Look to carry a lot of good speed in the bottom of 3 and 4. But this is the tough part right there. You see right there how he pushed up and washed up. That forces you off the throttle because you have to be able to make sure you don't crash into the car above you. And in turn, that's bottlenecking everyone right here. He seems to be one of the few that I've seen so far really be able to execute next to the rumble strips to be able to make passes so far.
Joe Branch to the inside as he tries to get on past Mike Rigney in the 00. These guys are getting racy. They're just checking themselves up more and more. 1.4 seconds behind Rolf is now from Vern Hawkins as they go 3 wide, and you get a wonderful camera shot there as Barrett Rolf, our roving cameraman, out on track. Chris Stouffer in the chrome and teal machine. Biggest mover on the day, Justin. He's up 10 positions already. He is right behind Barrett Rolf in carving his way up through the field.
Yeah, 10 positions. Check that 9 positions right now for the time being in about 16, 17 laps. It's very impressive to say the very least. But right now, he's not been taking too much time. He's been just trying to find the right lines, and it's been working out perfectly for him. Right now, for example, seems Guyon is struggling up on that second line for the time being, but the preferred groove to come through 1 and 2, as we've seen maybe the top, that switches him up to the top to try and get a run now on Branch.
This is going to open the door for Stouffer. Does he take it 3 wide? No, he doesn't. Just about checks up there, avoids the bump draft. Working our way down the back straightaway. The two teammates are side by side, but Branch is going to be aggressive and try and force Guyon to run that slightly higher line. They still work side by side. I tell you what now, Justin, these two are losing track of the cars ahead as well.
Yeah, all this side-by-side has been creating little packs now, and this has to be frustrating for a couple competitors to know that you may be quicker, but it's also to where the aero wash is starting to come into play right about now. This is where the tires are really starting to factor in.
Jump on board with Tony Showen for a second, one of the Adrenaline Motorsports teammates. He's got your HyperX on board, of course. It's been passed by Matt Taylor, who's looking very strong in the early stages of this race. Must say, rookies really have been dominant this season. And I mean, it's been Adrenaline Motorsports and their veterans, Justin, are really taking the charge to the rookies. And I mean, for Stouffer and for Showen, they continue this consistent run that they've got. They'll be looking very pretty as we see it's almost 3 wide for second position.
Yeah, the rookies have been very competitive so far. Have shown a lot of talent across the iRacing platform to get themselves to this position. And you need to have a lot of speed to be able to compete for championships and race victories in Lionheart. It takes a lot of work and effort to get yourself there. And for some of these drivers, they've been able to put in some great work, and the preparation as well some of them may have put in is really starting to show in terms of their skill level and in terms of the speed they have as well.
On board with Chris Fowler in the race first red. He's been on pole a couple of times this season, if I'm not mistaking myself. Just not being able to convert that to a victory yet today. 22 laps done here in the GraaFix eSports 200. It's still factory backed at the front. They are scrapping it out like madmen further back in the pack. And I must say, let's check in with them as they fly their way through turn 1. Joe Branch fends off Nunez with Malone and Mole almost side by side. Another car making up an impressive number of positions, Justin, is our season opener winner, Dean Mole. 7 positions gained so far in the 23.
Very quietly as well, have to say, so far, to be able to pick off drivers one by one, and now is in the tough spot of trying to get by this whole entire pack that's been scrapping like cats and dogs so far. And you can see, trying to find the open holes, nearly made a bit of contact there with Malone.
And after what we saw last time at Phoenix, Justin, I mean, that was physical. Elbows out, lots of self-spins as well, and I think drivers just struggling with the car balance at Phoenix. This is another short track as Mole is now having to defend from Craig Forsyth in the 72. It's another short track, but they are much more comfortable, it would appear, to run side by side to try and make things stick as, oh, there's a contact there, there's a bobble. Forsyth into the inside wall. Not sure if that's going to bring out the yellow flag here, Justin.
He's trying to get going. There's the caution flag right there with the last of the cars passing on by. And this is the exact trouble spot potentially there where Forsyth had to really check up to make sure he didn't come across Mole. Ends up checking up to the point where Ken Hacker gets him to the left with his left front tire and ends up sending him around in the checkup effect.
I don't really know if Hacker had too much time to respond to this. Let's jump on board with the onboard for the 24. You can see Forsyth slides up the track, and there's not much room to the outside there for the 24 machine, Justin, but I guess he didn't have much time, like I was saying, and really just an unfortunate circumstance there, and maybe a bit of the commentator's curse coming down.
Yeah, potentially there, but strategy coming into play right now for some Alexis Newsom. Ron Hacker elected not to come down. Everybody else is electing to come in for fuel.
That is interesting for the teammates to split up like that. So it's Newsom who's going to be almost a sacrifice play here with Ron Hacker out there as well. The front row, the only car staying out. The cars go up on the jacks then, race off of pit road. Who will win it here? Under caution for the first time today. Malechka rolls first, followed by Chris Fowler. Looks like Matt Taylor will come out net third, with Tony Schowen, Alexander Van der Sant, Paul Jenkins, Vern Hawkins, and then Barrett Rolfe completing the top 10 positions here, Justin.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in the call here for Newsom and Ron Hacker here because we are inside the window to be able to make it on a 3-stopper, keep in mind. So I'm curious on why they elected not to come down here. They'd have to come down at about 15 laps from now. So an intriguing decision here where they're hoping maybe for the clean air to be more beneficiary, but still, I still don't understand this.
Well, for Newsom, who had a rather miraculous recovery after being 2 laps down at one point in the IndyCar Open race, live on RaceSpot just an hour ago from the Atlanta Motor Speedway in the IR18, round 10 of that championship, as we work our way towards the season finale on the streets of Belle Isle. Oh, what's happened here? AJ Musselman coming down onto pit road. Not sure if he's had a bit of a tumble as well. I think we're about to take a look at this one. Down on the access road, and the Muscleman, I wonder if he's maybe sped on his pit entry here and slowed down a bit aggressively. Yeah, not sure what happened there, Justin.
I think he was just trying to make sure he didn't pass by those cars, possibly down to the access road. Keep in mind, this pit lane and pit entry is pretty difficult for drivers. Some of them had confidence to run at 90 miles an hour, others 110 miles an hour. It comes down to that confidence to be able to stick down on that access road with the amount of grip down there.
And so, as we mentioned slightly earlier, in each of the previous 3 trips here to Gateway, also known as the Worldwide Technology Raceway, we had 4 cautions. This is the first. It's been really, really good, Justin, and like I said, maybe I put the bit of the commentator's curse down. Pace car back down onto the safety of the pit road. Alexis Newsom and Ron Hacker at the front of the field. Big strategy plays as we get back to the green flag action here in the GraaFix eSports 200 presented by SimSnap Photography. 2 cars at the front will be due down onto pit road in just a couple of laps time. We're really not too far away from them having to make green flag pit stops. In a track like this, Justin, they will go a full lap down if they do have to do that.
And we've seen so many times this season that has not worked out for drivers, as some of those fresh tires nearly lean already to a pass for second position. Malechko got a big run down in the front straightaway. Needs to reset it up, though, in 1 and 2 here.
I think he realized that he wasn't going to be able to do it, but looks back down to the inside as we work our way down in through turn 3. Fresh tires on the factory-backed car, and into second he goes. Fowler follows him through the inside as well, supremely confident on the fresh rubber. What will Matt Taylor do? Let's jump onto the onboard with the team race first driver. He's got a good view of side-by-side action as Chris Fowler almost slides up into the contact. There is contact between the two of them. It's carnage once more here at Gateway. Cautions breed cautions, and Trevor Malone has just about squeaked through on that one.
Not sure how he may have gotten through, my goodness, but just a bit of a bobble coming off the corner. Watch right here. Just snaps right, and unfortunately, Ron Hacker is right in the thick of things in the side-by-side and just gets crunched.
One more look, and I tell you what, I want to grab the onboard with Malone when we can. But first, the aerial coverage brought to us by ATVO, the graphical partners at racespottv. It's an unfortunate one. Maybe it could have been avoided as well. And now let's jump onto the onboard with Malone. He comes across the scene of the incident. Oh, he gets so lucky, Justin, to avoid that one.
Extremely lucky, to say the very least. If it wasn't for that outward point for the access down the back straightaway here, likely ends up being involved in the incident. Let's see one more time. They're close tire to tire, and into the wall goes Hacker.
And so his gamble to stay out then really doesn't pay off. It was a aggressive sort of side-by-side action. Now let's jump back to live coverage and try and figure out, will Newsom come down onto pit road this time around, Justin?
Looks like stayed out on the racetrack for now, but now it's going to be the tough part of this. Is an interesting gamble. Remember, Newsom had been among the drivers who stayed out late. Correct me if I'm wrong, Arjuna and Phoenix. It ended up trying to stay out on old tires and ended up getting passed quickly in the closing stages of that race.
Just trying to think as well, Justin, of incidents similar to that. It was a bobble. We don't like to kind of talk about the technical limitations there sometimes of the service, but netcode, it looks like a little bit of that. Just unfortunate incident. I don't really think either of those cars were necessarily to blame in that case.
I mean, when it comes to racing online, there is the chance of that to happen, because it's essentially racing against various different bits and over various internet connections, internet qualities, distance, ping. A lot of different parts factor in when it comes to racing online. So there is that chance where you're racing that tight and drivers have that potentially come into play. So you never know when it's going to strike. That's the tough part in that sequence, Arjuna. So you need to be, in some cases, leave a tiny bit more space for some. That's where they end up leaving some extra space just in case. In that case, there wasn't too much space to be able to give in the first place with how tight they were in the corner exit.
Lights are still on the pace car. I wonder here if Newsom has figured out some magic of fuel growing in that car, and maybe that's what she's doing here. She's the only car, Justin, to have not come down onto pit road. It's an interesting call. She's got a teammate behind her now, so she will have a bit of a rear gunner to help her out here on the restart.
Yeah, but the older tires, I think, is going to make it very difficult to hold on here, and I still am not quite sure if just wanting to make sure that later on in the race the numbers line up a bit more better in that circumstance. It's still an intriguing call to make this early on when you're already in the window to make it on 2 more stops. So at this point, it's just a matter of, okay, how does this all play out with the massive, massive gamble like this?
So when we get back to the action, it will be lap 36 out of 160. So let's see how we can go from here. Out of the 26 starters, down to 23 cars on track. 3 retirees are Ron Hacker, Chris Fowler, and Craig Forsyth. Looks like a couple of cars coming down to top off on fuel. It's Matt Wagner in the 3. He will cycle to the tail end of the field. Lights off on the pace car, and I'm still a bit confused about the strategy from Newsom, but I guess we'll figure it out once the green flag waves once more. More Lionheart action coming up this week your way on racespottv, by the way. On Wednesday, the Lionheart IndyCar Series heads to Mid-Ohio. That will be a very fun race. Only the 3rd time the series has visited that track, Justin, and I'm not sure if you knew this, but the only 2 winners at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course also happen to be Lionheart champions.
Absolutely. It's going to be an intriguing race because it lends plenty of passing zones, but plenty of danger zones around the racetrack. Curious to see how many drivers dare send it through the keyhole and try and battle around there. But I think we're ready to go back green racing here. Newsom likely going to have to come in within about 10 to 12 laps after this restart.
So she's not got much life left in those tires either. She picks up the throttle. Great jump from the factory-backed cars, and the green flag is back out here in the GraaFix eSports 200. Looks like a good jump from Tony Showen. Looks to the inside immediately, searching for a podium position. Trying to get on past Matt Taylor. Nothing doing there. And here comes Alexander Van de Sant down the back straightaway to try and take advantage down in towards turn number 3. See if Showen can hold off on the outside line.
Answer is no, though. We've seen if you can get a big enough run on the bottom line and clear on by 3 and 4, you're in a great position to be able to complete said pass by the front straightaway. Seems like Van der Sant, though, looking fairly confident. The 2 teammates, though, have been able to pull up a distance of about 7/10 for the rest of the pack already.
There goes Showen back down to the inside of Van de Sant as they work their way in through turn 3. It's almost contact between the 2 of them. That was close for a moment. Showen will scamper on through. The championship leader will live to breathe for the moment. Right behind them, look at Barrett Rolfe. 12 positions gained on the day. He's not our biggest mover, Justin. That goes to Chris Stouffer, 14 positions so far. But there goes Rolfe getting on past Tony Showen. Looks to the inside of Van de Sant as well.
Yeah, that's going to change very quickly. Just like that, it's even out in terms of your biggest mover. He is the quickest driver on the racetrack just about at the moment, running in the flats last time by in terms of speed in the 26 flats, I should rather say. That time by 25.7. So he is blistering quick. Meanwhile, by the way, Malechka has gone to the race lead.
And not just to the race lead, but now Newsom starting to struggle. Not sure if you saw the bobble out of turn 2, Justin, but didn't look as though she was comfortable. And no in-car tools. It's what we've harped on throughout the beginning of this season so far. It means you have only your 2 hands and your 2 feet to do what you can to deal with dirty air. Here comes Matt Taylor to try and close the gap.
Yeah, right now Newsom just, I think, trying to save a little bit. Had a chance to peek underneath right there if she elected to choose to do so, but probably at this point knows this gamble is going to be absolutely intriguing in terms of how things play out, just electing to ride behind Malechka at this point.
Chris Stouffer side by side with Paul Jenkins, who I think will be thrilled that he's at least here on lap 41 of 160. It's been a difficult season for the iracing Racing driver. Stouffer gets on past around the outside. 16 positions gained for Indiana native Chris Stouffer, and works his way through turn 3 and 4. He knew he was starting at the back here, Justin, and well, his attitude wasn't necessarily checkers or wreckers. He was very focused, though, on charging up through the field like this. He's already right behind his teammate, Tony Showen.
Done a very impressive job of that quickest driver on the track last time by as well. He's been able to utilize the various different lines as well. Looking like he's not going to back off now once again. It's a little bit of help to be able to pull his way on inside the top 6 already.
We get this wonderful look down in through turn 1. The leading 3 cars have scampered away, but it is Barrett Rolfe who has gone and passed Alexander Van der Sant. He is sniffing for his first Lionheart victory, and he is now working his way towards the podium positions as well. For Alexis Newsom, the struggles continue. She's coming down onto pit road this time around, and she's on the grass as she makes her way down on the entry here, Justin.
And what did I say? This is a very difficult access road to get on here at the pit lane. Several drivers in practice ended up overcooking this part of the racetrack to be able to go down the pit lane right about here and just send it off for the grass. You carry too much speed, you send yourself right off into that green stuff. And in the end, loses a bit of time as a result here. And of course, as talked about, this is going to lose a lap here in this pit stop.
Might lose her a little bit more. I wonder if there's any type of unsafe entry onto pit road, Justin, as a result of that. Doesn't appear as though that's the case. 8.3 seconds in the box. Newsom will roll off one lap down. She's got a mighty challenge on her hands, but they're 3 wide. Chris Stouffer takes advantage up into the podium positions. That was bold, that was brave, and maybe it really was checkers or wreckers because he's up into the top 3 now.
Yeah, taking advantage of a situation where Barrett Rolfe was trying to battle with Vandersen and ended up just driving right on by them like they were standing still, but Rolfe wants that position back here. They're starting to lose themselves time. Demwatchka and Taylor, who've broken away from the rest of the pack with this. Last time by, these drivers lost up to 6/10 to the race leaders.
And so while I think Stouffer will be comfortable and maybe him and Rolfe will work together to try and pull away, Van der Sant and Schouwen, the championship leader, doesn't want to fall adrift from his teammate too far. But of course, with Newsom struggling, I mean, for the 2 Adrenaline Motorsports teammates, this is the prime position. Look at this aerial shot, not just of these cars, further back as well. They're 2 wide. And they'll be 2 deep just about now. Joe Branch in the yellow and red side by side with Dean Moll. And in front of them is Alex Guyon side by side with Mike Rigney.
And Rigney has been all over the place when it comes to the leaderboard so far, trying to fight for these types of positions. Just couldn't get it done right there once again. Again, getting very tight, and that's one of the tricky parts again when it comes to this track is with how tight the exit of turn 2 is, you have to be careful with the aero wash in particular. You don't wash up and come up into the car when you're side by side. And it was close to doing so right there.
Looking rearwards from Stouffer, I did mention the last time the DW12 came here to the Worldwide Technology Raceway, Stouffer led a race-high 103 laps. Now, unable to take the win, that was his teammate Joe Branch, that is the defending DW12 winner here, but is looking promising for Stouffer, who had a rather rough week last time out. Let's say that, Justin. I mean, multiple contacts at Phoenix. He'll be pretty happy with how this race has gone so far.
I think so as well, especially with the amount of attrition in that race, down to single digits when it came to the drivers on the lead lap in the closing stages of that race. But the driver who was able to benefit the most in part was that, Tony Schouwen, able to get another good run here at the bottom of the racetrack. Van der Sant is starting to go backwards here.
Not sure exactly if that was just Schouwen squeezing Van der Sant just that little bit much, but we ride on this gyro cam looking backwards. It looks like Paul Jenkins defends from Vern Hawking. So now the separation is starting to come down between the peloton that's chasing, but Chris Stouffer still finds himself about 1.3 seconds adrift from the race leaders. It looks like Matt Wagner is down onto pit road this time around. We'll check in with Barrett Rolfe and Chris Stouffer across the line. They seem to be swap drafting here, Justin, but not in a way that we're really going to see this weekend in the 12th annual iRacing Indy 500. It's more as though they're costing each other time coming down through turn 1 and 2.
I was about to say, you normally don't see swap drafting too much here at this racetrack. If you're going back and forth like this, it's usually in the battle for position. And they are now finally starting to get to where they're, I think, realizing, okay, we've cost ourselves a lot of time. It's time to work back together and get back into a line here, because it was about 1.5 seconds these drivers pulled away. Rolfe, though, is now starting to close into the gap a little bit and bring Stouffer with him.
And if you're Stouffer, why not run around where you are here, Justin? Save some fuel. We may get green flag pit stops in this race so far. And for Alexis Newsom, I must say, I don't think she'll be too disappointed with how this is playing out. She's got something in her mind, and maybe she'll cook up a masterclass just like she did to take her very first Speedway Series victory.
Now remember as well, at Texas in particular, strategy was very key for Newsom to be able to save a lot of gas in that race, be able to make it to the checker flag. We'll have to see how things play out for Alexis, but right now, these two lining up like this, it's working out fairly well so far. Rolfe, though, losing a bit of time this time.
I think they're mostly gaining rather than losing, though, and that's important. The gap is almost down to just 1 second between second and third, and these guys have pulled 1.4 seconds clear of the championship leader and Alexander Van der Sant and company. The peloton is continuing to build up momentum here. Are they 3 wide once more across the start-finish line? I don't think they were, but for a moment I think they thought about it. And that is Alex Guyon, Dean Moll having a continued scrap here. Looks like, Justin, I mean, after the lessons they learned last time, maybe Race Control gave them a bit of a talking to. They've shown up here, elbows out, but also very respectful.
Oh, and Dean Moll with a great save right there, just went on the rumble strips and nearly spun it around as well. And this is where you do not want to hit those rumble strips, Arjuna, because it can snap you around. But to answer your question, I think they've definitely gotten the point of that with how they're racing tonight in terms of the aggression levels. Yes, there's been a lot of passing, but there hasn't been too much squeezes. And when they know they can't get clear, they've been giving a lot of leeway on the corner exits here so far tonight.
Gap out front, back up to 1.3 seconds between second and third. So not sure if momentum starting to favor Malechka now, who is very much building up the speed. Could he be on the cards to become only the second multi-time winner on the season, Justin? For factory backs, they must be thrilled at how things are going.
Absolutely. I think we might see that team rise up to the standings by especially the second half of the season. I wouldn't be surprised with Malechka in particular to see factory back battling for the top spot in the team title shot. But right now, Stouffer and Rolf are starting to hold each other up again. Again, they're fighting back and forth.
What will it be across the line this time? It was almost just over a tenth for the last time. This time a 25.827 for Rolf. That actually does close the gap, but I do think that they might end up costing each other a bit more time, because you can see left side of the screen, it's now 1.6 between the leader and the third place driver of Barrett, Rolf. Let's check in further back for now as well, because really is some great side-by-side action between Mike Rigney and Alex Guyon here.
Yeah, Rigney's been very active when it comes to some of these side-by-sides today, and Guyon has continuously just struggled, it seems, once the tires start to settle on in, has constantly been trying to run the outside line. Might have just about grazed the wall in front of these cars, in fact, and now has been almost a cork in the bottle, so to speak, for many of the different battles today, has been that 08 machine.
It's a bit weird sometimes, I feel, coming to Gateway in the month of May, because of course the very first major event that was held here at the Worldwide Technology Raceway back in 1997 on Saturday, May 24th was a kart race scheduled before the Indy 500. So it feels a bit weird. Of course, we're very excited about the Indy 500, not just here on the virtual iRacing service. It was Phil Krause taking the fixed 500 just this past weekend. Coverage live on racespottv. And this Saturday we have coverage of the 12th annual Indy 500. Brandon Traynor looks to make it 3 wins in a row. That would be absolutely incredible. Checking in out front, there's been a swap for the race lead because they're side by side. Here comes Matt Taylor, no longer playing patient here, Justin. He wants the race lead.
He's been just riding for a good bit of time now, and that time had an opportunity to poke to the inside. Just couldn't get the job done, not close enough, and this is going to be the tough part, is trying to make the pass with a lot of the clean air being on Malechka's front nose. It takes a lot of skill to be able to get it done. As we've seen, you need to have a perfect run to get the job done to be able to make the pass, in my opinion.
Working lap 38 then on the stint, Justin. We are approaching the fuel window as well. How is this going to play out then? Because when will cars come down first? I do think the undercut might be a little bit more strong than we've anticipated. The problem is always going to be if you come down early and you get trapped under caution, you might be 1 lap down.
And I'm looking at the numbers here, and depending on when these drivers come down, we talked about it potentially making 2 more stops. I'm wondering if Newsom didn't feel confident in that possibly, and that might be the thought process, where if drivers come in right about this 39, 40 laps or so into the stint, are they going to make it to 40 laps to go? And that's going to be something where the projections were leaning towards that possibility of being able to make it. It's going to be tight now with it being 160 laps possibly.
Interesting. My mind is racing now. Maybe Newsom, that's maybe what she was thinking about. Where is she in relation to the entire field? Working her way down into turn 1, so almost the last car in the train. Only the muscle man is behind her. If a caution comes out, she will cycle through to the front. But I would suspect would also want to come down at the same time. So, like I said, mind is well and truly racing and trying to figure out what the drivers are thinking about as well. And I think for some of these drivers, Justin, the great thing is it's not just what they're thinking about. It's what their teammates are thinking. Sometimes it's what your spotter or engineer is saying as well.
Yeah, that might be heads-up driving here, and yes, indeed, this is going to be where possibly these drivers can't stretch it to what we possibly thought of before, possibly. Vandersen having to come down, as well as Nunez here. Some of these drivers need to start saving. Malechka has already indicated he's coming in.
So the race leader will be in the next time around. It's lap 69. There goes the number 91. Taylor stays out there, as do a number of other cars. So clearly, fuel saving as being the name of the game for some of these cars. On to pit road speed comes Malechka. He will tumble down the order. Interesting to see where he cycles out in comparison to his teammate. Does Taylor come down this time around? Yes, he has. He's already indicated, Justin, he's down onto the access road.
Barrett Rolf also coming down to the access road and gained a lot of time while doing so. At least 5 car lengths and is going at least 20 miles an hour quicker than Taylor. Look at that.
And the yellow cone, Justin, it's well and truly well down the pit entry as well, so you can attack, and for Barrett Rolf, he's made up considerable time attacking that pit entry.
You need to have confidence to be able to make that stick, and he definitely had confidence, carrying it the quickest out of anybody. At least 10 miles an hour quicker than Christopher, for example, who's down the lane. So that's going to gain Rolf a ton of time and put him right in the mix for the race lead fight.
So there is Malechka working his way out of turn 4. You can see Rolf and Taylor rolling themselves off of pit road. Tony Schowen as well. Malechka already up to speed though. Where is he going to cycle out in comparison to Barrett Rolf, who is slightly in front of him on track? It's a car coming down onto pit road there. I believe that's the 24. But it's Rolf who has cycled through to the net race lead. Justin, overcut has worked beautifully for the Ascari Autosport driver.
You're perfectly, in fact, right into the battle, as, by the way, the reason we've seen that 24 down there slow, he ran out of gas, Arjuna. So these drivers are getting right to the end of their fuel tanks right now. Some of them are going to be probably coasting, and I think some of them may have just realized it.
It doesn't work out in Stouffer's favor because he's all the way behind Newsom as well, so he's fallen back. Whatever Rolf did on strategy has worked a charm here. Green flag pit stops as we working our way towards the halfway marker in the GraaFix eSports 200 presented by SimSnap Photography. Net race leader now is Matt Taylor. Malechka is now 1 second behind, so I don't know what Matt Taylor has done here, Justin, but he's worked even more of a strategy masterclass than the 33 car.
Yeah, we'll execute it on the lane and right into some potential cleaner pockets once things cycle through. So we'll have to see how things play out for Taylor, because Taylor, keep in mind, this season has been very quick. 6 top 10s, just 2 top 5s, but has been right up there in the mix of things several times with a chance to win.
And now that green flag pit stops are done, I tell you what, let's bring up our Sim Experience driver profile, and it's your championship leader, Tony Schowen, the Iowa native, excuse me, not Ohio, getting myself completely mixed up there as I read a number of cars coming down onto pit road. 61 starts in the DW12 chassis, 21 top 10s with 10 top 5s. It's been a long wait for his first victory in this chassis, Justin. He debuted back in Season 3 of the Lionheart IndyCar Series. He had to wait until the Speedway Series debuted in 2021 to take victory just a week ago.
Yeah, he's been close several times this season, and for that, got the right strategy, got the right pace, and kept the car clean. And that's one of the main focal points for him, is just try and let the race come to him. And last round, it came to him.
I wonder where he'll go from here, Justin. I mean, championship leader, he's been so consistent this season. I mean, the string at the first couple of races, given how chaotic it had gone for others, didn't necessarily seem like he was going to have that luck throughout the entire season. But you know what? If he keeps it up, he will be a contender come the end.
I think so. I think right now he's already put himself up into the contender spot. It's just tonight hasn't necessarily had track position, so to speak, for the most part, has been up there, but just has fallen off a little bit compared to, say, Ralph and Malechka and Taylor so far. But what a drive by Nunez so far, up 5 positions and having one of his best races of the season.
It's been some big movers and shakers. There's someone trying to move some more. Shaking and baking his way into the top 5 is Chris Stouffer in the 13 chrome and teal, side by side with Van der Sande, who gets squeezed up the track very slightly, has to concede that top 5 position. Stouffer almost cuts off the nose coming across the start-finish line. Lap 79 out of 160, Justin. We're just a couple of miles away from reaching the halfway point of this race. And for strategy, let's quickly just talk about that then, because we're wondering what Alexis Newsom is thinking. She's thinking of coming down onto pit road very shortly.
Yeah, Newsom has cycled for the time being into 4th position, but is one of the quicker cars on the racetrack at the moment, despite the older tires, but has the slipstream down the straightaways. Just chose wrong there on the line, but right now, in terms of the math, could pit potentially in just a couple laps, pit with under 40 laps to go, be comfortable. And we were talking about expecting drivers to be able to be fairly comfortable from that point. At this point, this is almost looking like a genius call from Newsom to be able to have that heads up and have that preparation put in to know that fuel number, to be precise, was going to be just that little bit off that was needed for some of these drivers.
But what she does need, Justin, is this race to go green to the end. If it doesn't go green to the end, she could be in a world of hurt in terms of being trapped 1 lap down, trying to cycle her way back onto the lead lap. And from there, she would be at the tail end. And, you know, we've seen impressive carvings through the field in the case of Rolf and Stouffer. It's not been something they've done in a short amount of time. It's taken them 50-plus laps to be able to do that. Newsom might not have that kind of time on her side.
Yeah, and right now, this is going to need precision and luck, absolutely, towards the direction. And it's leaning towards what drivers, I think, were hoping, is things are spreading out. That's the bright side right now, where there isn't too many major packs right now, so that means there isn't too many chances of drivers pushing up, and Newsom's called it in, coming in this time.
Here comes the 63, the pole position sitter, down onto the lane, using the access road once more, very aggressive, this time able to avoid the grass. How aggressive is she compared to Barrett Rolfe? Very aggressive, locks the inside front as well. She'll be hoping not to get that pit road penalty that would almost certainly put an end to her hopes here today. But she's got the magic number on her side, Justin. Let's see if the strategy gods play it out in her favor.
I'm really curious where this all cycles around if this ends up being the case, because we may see drivers realize it's time to save a ton of fuel towards the end of this race and maybe really backing on down. Again, though, all it takes is one caution flag to completely scramble things up, and we've seen that come into play. Newsom is now going to be back in 21st position. Ooh! And a loose off the access road.
Almost loses control. She will cycle out right into the path of Matt Houston and Charles Teed. I think she'll have to drop into line after a bit of a wiggle there. That was a close moment for the only repeat winner this season. She will be very, very fortunate that she did not lose control there. Cold tires almost certainly playing a big factor. Here's Joe Branch, by the way, the only Adrenaline Motorsports driver now not in the top 10. See what he can do from here, Justin. He struggled to carve his way through the defending race winner, but clearly you can't count him out given what he did the last time the DW12 was out here at Gateway.
Can't whatsoever. It's just been the fact that he's been stuck essentially behind these two for much of this race, and I think has been really patient when it comes to this right now. Maybe trying to go with the fuel save right now, not showing too much urgency, slowing up a ton right now compared to some of these other competitors. Keep in mind this pack, they aren't even reaching 180 miles an hour right now in this line, so they're definitely thinking big picture.
Interesting. So maybe the strategy games are starting to play, and you can hear as well, Branch is lifting off before he even gets the start-finish straight. So Interesting calls there. They're 12 seconds adrift from the leader, almost half a lap down. They're working their way down the back straightaway. The leader down across the start-finish line. There's Matt Taylor, 4/10 clear of Robert Malechka for factory backed. Barrett Rolfe and Chris Stouffer have been unable to really close the gap here so far, Justin. They will need, I think, a caution to really challenge for victory here today.
Yeah, right now these top two have been the dominant pace setters for the most part, and as well as Newsom when she was up front before the first caution flag. They've been consistent. They've been consistently finding their own marks, especially when it comes to getting a run coming out of turns 1 and 2. And in turn, with all the fighting that happened behind, the air drivers have all they've done is match times. When they fight like this, again, they lose a ton of time, and in turn, it's really spread things apart compared to the rest of the pack.
Still got 21 cars out there, so that's still pretty good. More than halfway through this race. About halfway through the fuel window as well, so while these guys continue to scrap it out, they might be thinking about the fuel saving as well. Don't necessarily think it will be at the forefront of their minds given how close they are duking it out wheel to wheel. We are live then for the GraaFix eSports 200 presented by SimSnap Photography here live on racespottv. Don't go anywhere. We'll bring you to the end uninterrupted right after these messages from our partners.
Wreck avoidances.
Stay low. He's high, stay low.
Daring passes.
Oh, you're gonna get it.
Silly jumps.
Oh my god, a drive-through.
The thrill of victory.
They're against the wall. Good win, Mark. Stay low.
And the occasional mishap.
My sim crashed.
This is the DMLC Racing Channel.
Hello and welcome back to RaceSpottv and continued coverage here in the Lionheart Speedway Series. Round 6, the GraaFix eSports 200, presented by SimSnap Photography, continues under green flag running. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined as always by Justin Prince here on a Monday night. It's been an interesting race so far, Justin. Strategy very much the name of the game, and unfortunately for Alexis Newsom, one of the cars that is really trying something different, she hit the pit wall under that caution brake.
Yeah, ended up hitting the wall coming out of turn 2, in fact, right with the side plate of the car, right along the side pod. So does have a bit of damage on that 63 machine. It's going to be interesting how that impacts that machine now the rest of this run, especially after sliding up to the very edge of that safer barrier to clip it. But for some of the air drivers, They continue to scrap along here, coming up to 60 to go.
Most of the cars working lap 27, 28 on the fuel stint, so about 10 laps before we expect them down onto the lane. I think Dean Moll is the first to blink. Wonder if he's maybe had some contact of his own. So race winner at our season opener. Starting off a bit of a wild opening flurry of races here in the Lionheart Speedway Series. We'll have a bit of a break after this. The drivers will get the month of May to kind of recharge and recoup after elbows out, bumper cars on occasion, Justin. And the next time we return, it should be interesting to see how the drivers really race it out wheel to wheel.
Absolutely, it's going to be an intriguing race as well at the tracks we go to. But now Malechka has come on into the pit lane from second spot. So the fuel window is now opened up. They're looking like they may split it to about 20 or 30 to go possibly here.
So they've come down a couple of laps early. Malechka will cycle down, then down one lap as Joe Branch and company fly their way down and through turn one. For Malechka, he can't afford to make any mistakes here on pit road. Barrett Rolfe is down as well, so don't think, Justin, this is going to be unexpected for cars to come down this time around. I think Vern Hawkins has come down as well, and just like Newsom did in the early portions of the race, has gotten pit road all sorts of wrong.
Yes, indeed, and this has been an intriguing one so far, and how this has played out. Let's take a look at the replay with the all sorts of wrong part. Bye-bye, all the way into the grass and then some.
Well, watch this as well, Justin. Watch as he flirts with disaster on the outside wall, locks up the tire. Don't think there was contact, but the 25 car. Oh, that was lucky, Justin. That could have been holes. That could be so much worse than it really ended up.
Absolutely, that lockup could have obviously sent him right onto the front wing to the wall.
He's coming back down onto pit road. Sorry, Justin, to cut you off there, but I wonder if there's a penalty of some kind. Excuse me, no. I was getting myself very confused there. It looked like he was coming back down onto the pit road, but of course, the access road on either side of the track here looks pretty similar.
And we've seen how slip-ups can happen on the exit of this pit lane as well with the access road. One more driver has lost a ton of time. Matt Taylor did the same thing as Newsom.
I think Van de Sande has done the same thing as well. Oh, no, this is such a tricky pit lane, and we were talking about it earlier in the race. There is Taylor, and now 1 second behind Barrett Rolfe.
Ended up having a slide similar to that of Newsom earlier on in this race, and ended up losing a lot of time as a result. Remember, Newsom lost a few seconds as a result of that incident. Here's Van der Sande and what happened where, wow, he missed it a lot. Nearly made it back to the racetrack.
Oh, I wonder if he's going to have the unsafe pit penalty. Yes, he did. He spent 48 seconds on pit road. So 100%. You can get dinged by the automatic race control here, Justin. Van de Sande flirted with disaster.
Absolutely did there at this point, and now it's going to be intriguing how this all plays out, because several more are trying to stretch this even further, including the Muscleman, De Groot, Hagstrom. Among the drivers, Christopher, Tony Schowen, Mike Rigney. All of them want to try and stretch it as far as we can. We'll have to see how far they can push this on the tank.
If you are the Adrenaline Motorsports teammates, Stouffer and Schowen, now running 1 and 2, Justin, you know what you need. You need a caution, and you need it now.
It'd still be a one-stopper from this point, I should say, but with only 12 cars on the lead lap, it would definitely shake things up. The tough part is a lot of the drivers have spread themselves apart, as talked about, so it'd have to come from a major mistake from somebody in this field.
Stouffer's not down this time. He's working lap 38 on his stint. Gap to his teammate is 6 seconds, Justin. We did mention there may have been some fuel saving going on from some of these cars that were checked up. Not the case for Schowen, apparently. He's down onto the pit lane and not able to, I think, make this without an additional stop.
Yeah, now this is looking even more and more smarter from Newsom by the minute.
Will Stouffer come down this time? No, he's staying out there even further. So magic in the car of Chris Stouffer. I talked about the fuel-growing tree that Newsom may have planted in her car. Well, maybe Stouffer's done the same. In terms of lap time, by the way, Newsom has recovered decently after that hit to the wall, but finds herself 4 seconds adrift from Matt Taylor in that battle for the net race lead. More and more cars down onto pit road this time around, Justin. Just 9 still left out there on track. Here comes Christopher.
Gianna was also coming in this time by at the end of the lead lap, so this is now right to where these drivers definitely need to come in for one more stop. It's the matter of when now for some of these competitors. Charles Teed also is ducked down.
I think everyone will be down this time, if not this time, then in the next 2 laps. We're watching then Barrett Rolfe. Where does he cycle out in comparison to Stouffer? They were close on track coming into the cycle. As the undercut worked or as the overcut worked here? We're about to find out as the 33 works his way in through turn 3 and 4 with Paul Jenkins working his way down onto the access road. There's Stouffer off of the lane already. Now releases himself from the limiter. It's going to be close, but I think Rolfe should be just a nose in front. It's going to be close between Taylor and Stouffer here, though, coming out of turn 2.
And right now, I believe Taylor, with that mistake, lost enough time to lose at least 1 second. Christopher cycled fairly decently into a good spot, though, with all this, to be able to be right in the thick of things.
Well, the important thing for Stouffer now is he'll know that he can have a shorter final stop than the cars in front here, Justin. That will be something that he'll be focusing on. We are closing our way down into the final 40 laps here. This is going to be an exciting end to this race here.
Especially with the strategy because of that 63 that is still running behind all these drivers. That the amount of time lost per stint, though, is continuing to mount up for Newsom. That damage isn't going to help either now. Right now, Newsom and Clean Air running 26 flats at the moment. Some of the leaders are running up to a 1/10 of a second quicker still.
Matt Houston, Joe Branch, and the Muscle Man, the final 3 cars come down onto the lane. They are close, and you know what? If we get one more caution in the dying stages here, they may be ones to just risk it and stay out there in the track position. Nick de Groot actually staying out there as well, Justin. So there are a couple of cars that could try something different if the caution flies once more.
Well, de Groot just came in this time by, so I think that closes up the pit stop stints, but this is going to be tight, I think, for much of the field now, for anyone to even try stretching. I don't think you can stretch at 9 laps for some of these competitors. So it's obvious that some of them are going to have to come in. It's just a matter of when they elect to come in and how much fuel they want to put in the car.
Robert Malechka with a 2.6 second advantage at the front of the field. He has got lap traffic in between him and the main competitor, Barrett Rolfe. Malechka won on debut at Atlanta just a couple of weeks ago. For Rolfe, still searching, Justin, but he's close. He'll be hunting down that 91 car.
Yeah, Rolfe right now needs to get some quick, fast laps together, and the tough part is the air wash is going to factor in. You've got cars currently coming out. You've got various teammates going to be potentially working together here. You have all sorts of different factors here. It's not going to be easy to pass by all the traffic because, remember, that's where Rolfe lost a lot of the traffic, or time rather, was passing by other cars for position earlier on in this race. So in other words, he needs a bit of luck here, I think, to close up this gap.
Side by side, it's Shawan and Vern Hawkins. The championship leader has to defend for 7th position. He's down 3 on the day so far, Justin. Hasn't been the easiest day for him in comparison, especially to his teammate. Now, challenging for the podium positions, but consistency. That's what wins you championships here in Lionheart. For Shawan, if he can muster up a couple more positions, work his way into the top 5 potentially, it's still more valuable points added to his total.
Absolutely, and by the way, there is one driver I'm now looking towards to see what the 66 of Matt Houston can do, because remember those drivers topping off after the caution flags earlier on in this race, Arjuna? That 66 was one of the drivers who were doing so. He's 2 laps down right now because he just took service. He might be able to save enough to make it to the end.
So we'll have to watch out then for that team race first driver, and the other team race first driver that sits on the 3rd step of the podium, Matt Taylor. Also watch out for him and his strategy, as looks like Joe Branch and Jeff Seong duking it out. I think Branch, another victim of the very difficult pit entry here, Justin, with 40 laps to go. Let's go take a look, I think, once more at the RaceSpot TV replay machine. And coming down in through the access road. Oh, that's a bit different. This is coming off the exit of the pit road here rather than the entry.
Yeah, as soon as he got into the gas, it seemed to go right by the blue cone. Just lit up the back tires just that little bit. It's enough to send him spinning. Good job to keep it off the inside wall.
Yeah, very good job. Not the first time today I've seen some excellent car control. 20 cars still out there then, so lap traffic will start to be, I think, a big factor in the battle for the lead here. It's 2.8 seconds between Malechka and Rolf still. A tenth of a second gained by the race leader as he's got clean air in front of him, Justin. And for Malechka, he must be feeling pretty confident right now. The main worry he'll have is the people on alternate strategies, the likes of Stouffer, the likes of Newsom, potentially.
I think especially Newsom is going to be the big question mark here, because I don't know how it's going to fare out, especially with the damage with the 63 in terms of the strat. 9 seconds adrift is Newsom from your race leaders at the moment. In fact, Newsom's coming in right now.
So she's down then. She will be able to make it good on fuel. She's committed to this strategy. Now let's see how it will play out. Let's watch the final pit stop for the factory back driver. It might be a factory back driver either way in victory lane here, Justin. It's looking good for Malechka. It's looking potentially good for Newsom if she can nurse that car with damage to the end of this race.
Yeah, and again, the main thing is going to be where Newsom cycles out. She's been losing more and more time each stint, I've noticed. That first slip up came from, remember, that pit entry under green for the first time for her. Losing a ton of time. That put her right behind the top three. Then getting stuck in the Mara traffic and getting some damage, lost her even more time. And now it's about how does this play out the rest of the way for Newsom.
Back out onto track right behind, I believe that's Alexander Van der Sant. It would be for position if not for the fact that Van der Sant does owe us a additional pit stop. So factory back now. They're first and they're 19th. With Nick de Groot somewhere in the middle. He's in 16th position, is the motorsports.com editor and writer. Always great to see new names and new faces, not just here in Lionheart, but in iRacing as well. For Newsom, a revelation in the IndyCar so far in 2021. What can she do in the second half of the year as well, coming out of this little break that we've got on the other side of the checkered flag? It's still Vern Hawkins and Tony Schowen duking it out for 6th and 7th positions. Hawkins almost up into the wall there.
Thought he was going to slam the wall coming down the front straightaway with how aggressive he tried to cut to the outside, as here comes more pit stops. It's Paul Jenkins elected to come in. Only came in about 15 laps ago.
That is a very interesting call. I'm trying to pull up the graphic as quickly as he can. It resets to 0 then as he hits pit road. But I think he knows he can make it to the end from here, and I think that's at the forefront of his mind, Justin. So for Paul Jenkins, it's been a bumper car year for him. He's been usually bullied around the track on occasion. He'll be very glad that heading into the final 30 laps here, he's still out there on the track.
Yeah, Paul Jenkins has had... Is there anything less than 0 luck? Because it's been that type of a campaign, unfortunately, for him, where he can have some good speed, he can be in great position, that ends up getting involved in later incidents. Hoping that isn't the case for him today. Seems to be keeping the car clean. Got near contact one time. That's about it for his day. Trevor Malone, by the way, as we just seen coming in.
On board with Matt Taylor here as he's chasing down Barrett Rolfe. These cars are losing track of Malechka. It's now 3 seconds and climbing. Here comes Rolfe down onto the lane, so he's also decided to come down, Justin. Matt Taylor will stay out there. How long will he elect, though, to do this and run around by himself?
Murdoch is starting indicating this time, so I don't know if he's going to stay out too long here. We'll have to see. He did set one of the fastest lap times, yes, but right now, with all these other drivers pushing along, it's going to be intriguing. Taylor may think about trying to have a lighter car, though. We'll have to wait and see.
So Rolfe, this is the most important stop of the race so far. Up on the jacks, down he goes, 7.7. It's a very quick stop. Here, though, comes your race leader, Robert Malechka. An indication, Justin, of all the cars wanting to get down onto pit road with 30 laps to go.
This is the exact call we talked about at 60 to go when these drivers started to peel off into the pit lane. That may come into play. We may see drivers pushing as far as 20 laps to go. That's as far as some of them can get. And then it's about seeing where the strategies lie for some of these drivers on the fuel.
7.5 seconds stationary for Malechka. If he nails this pit exit, he is in control of this race. 28 laps to go. We are waiting for the cars behind him to cycle back out. But as Malechka makes his way down in towards turn number 3, Barrett Roll finds himself 3.3 seconds behind the 91 car.
Just out of range of being able to draft with anybody, too, right in front of Hughes into... And the thing is, too, I should rather say, Malechka's got Nick DeGroot right with him as well, so they're already bunched up together, and that's not going to work out for DeGroot, who might be on the fuel save strategy.
Well, the teammates at least can link up with each other and maybe do some work together there. Question now, when does Taylor come down? 31 and counting on the stint for him. Working through turn 1 behind Trevor Malone, who will have fresher tires and therefore be feeding the dirty air to the race leader, Justin. Not necessarily where he wants to be, but he's not down onto the lane this time around.
I think he might be trying to push it as far as he can, possibly, because there's only 6 cars on the lead lap. There's the chance you could bake on a caution, by the way. Nunez, who we talked about, was having a good day. Well.
Difficult pit exit. I think that's the best way to put it, right, Justin?
Yes, very much so, and loses them a lot of time.
So it's been a problem spot, both entering and exit, and I mean, so crucial. I mean, you can't gain 3 seconds on track. You can very much lose it entering and exiting pit road, and we saw Rolf, one of the most aggressive cars, down onto the lane. That definitely helped him close the gap earlier in the running, but now 3 seconds adrift from Robert Malechka. What can he do? It's actually 2.1 seconds now. Relatively similar times in the box. This undercut has worked out nicely for the 33 car. Can he hunt down Malechka? Right now he's got to try and get past the teammate. He does so, getting past Nick DeGroot very simply.
Yeah, DeGroot is really backed it on down, I've noticed right now, especially down the straightaways. He is trying to go for it.
Is he trying to get there with a 40-something lap stint? 45 lap stint, Justin.
Yeah, it's looking like it with how much he's rolling out. Sorry,
Justin, that's Joe Branch, who was once more, I would suspect, lost it coming through turn 2. And somehow, by some miracle, we will stay on the green flag conditions here.
Might have got some help from Nunez, possibly, as you'll see the run coming, and around she went as he went to the outside.
See if we can jump on board with the Neki Racing 14. He looks to the inside through turn 1. On board with the DW12 of Nunez, and just runs through the rear end of Joe Branch there. Branch with some nasty damage to the front. I'll put an end to his hope in the Adrenaline Motorsports car, the yellow and red one that was struggling a bit here today. Newsom down on pit road. What has happened here, Justin?
I am not sure about this one here, and look at that side pod. It's crushed in even more. Newsom may have hit the wall again.
Let's spool up, I guess, the replay machine once more, Justin, and try and figure this out right away. She is very slow already here. I think I might have picked up the right moment. Let's see if we can go back slightly further in this. She's already slow there. It must have been coming down in through turn 3, Justin.
Would have been turn 2. I think it's turn 2 because that's where you're going to see Carey's normal speed right now. Potential top 5 run, then pushes and washes up in the marbles enough to crunch the entire right side of the car in.
Jump on board. First from this left-hand shot, then as she washes up the track, jump to the right-hand shot as well. You can see immediately the front wing is bent on in. Disaster then for Newsom. Second place in the championship. She's back down on pit road. 19 laps to go then here. And still yet to come down pit road is Matt Taylor, Christopher, and Tony Shaw, and the main contenders that might still have some sort of chance of victory here, Justin.
And it's going to be close in how things cycle through because keep in mind, Taylor's going for the least amount of fuel strategy. He's indicated he's coming in this time, stretched to 40 laps on the stint.
Here comes the team race first driver. Slows his way down onto this very tricky access road. Can he apply the brakes as late as possible? Look for the cones. There they are. Think he was okay there. No speeding penalty like we saw for Van der Sande, but we will watch then as Christopher, still out there on track, will inherit the race lead. It's Taylor, it's Malechka, it's Rolf. Those are the gaps that we're looking for, Justin. For Taylor, he can't afford to make any mistakes as he makes his way down into the box.
Looking especially towards the lane delta right now, because it would have been about a 2-second difference right now, but a quick-ish stop, 8.2 seconds for Taylor.
There he goes, but Malechka's already going to round around the outside as Taylor's trying to build up the speed. Where's Rolf? There's Rolf coming in through turn 2 as well. It's going to be close, but the 33 should have second position. Gets into the draft as well. In through turn 3. Can Cold Tires defend? Doesn't seem like it can. 16 laps to go. It's Malechka in control here at the Worldwide Technology Raceway.
And already Rolf is trying to break up this draft. He wants this podium finish. He wants to finish one of his best results of the season. The tough part's going to be, though, to get to Malechka, he needs to close up 2.2 seconds in 15 laps. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case to be able to close up unless there's some luck.
Van Newsom, she's working her way back down onto the pit road. Disaster there. Taylor versus Rolf. This is going to intensify. Can they afford to hold each other up and lose track of Malechka even further? Malechka might run into some traffic in front of him. You never know how these races could play out at this point in time. On the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see only 3 cars left on the leading lap here, Justin, and for Tony Schowen, the championship leader, I don't think he's any sort of factor for the victory here as Taylor down the inside of Rolf up into net second position. It's all about Chris Stouffer in that 13 machine and what he can do.
Yeah, right now I think it can go an extra 4 laps, get within 10 laps to go. At this point, I think the gamble has to be they're hoping for a caution flag at this point. That's the only thing I can think of right now outside of how things could play out, because I don't think they're going to cycle there near contact between these two.
That was close. That was risky from Rolf, but Taylor has managed to take advantage of his fresher rubber and slot his way on past. Rolf is 17 laps into the run compared to just 4 from Matt Taylor in the 8. So for Taylor now, can he hunt down the 91? 2.3 seconds adrift, and the gap behind already extended up to 0.3 of a second. Chris Stouffer works lap 38 here, Justin. He will be down onto pit road in just a couple of laps' time.
Yeah, he's done a great job on the strategy to try and stretch things out, but right now, reality about to set in possibly now for that fuel tank. Tony Schowen's coming in. Chris Stouffer's coming in.
And so now this is going to be vital. What's the delta going to be? Stouffer needs to nail this pit entry as well. How cautious is he being? A bit more cautious than Rolf, but he can't afford a penalty given his position in the championship. You'd have to think. Schowen down in front of his teammate. That's the extent of the advantage that Stouffer had over the 31 car. Watching then for Stouffer to make his way into the box at for the very final time. Relatively short stop there, 4.4 seconds. I don't think he took tires there. Stouffer is going to cycle back to the race lead here, Justin.
Oh, what a call. What a call right here. This is going to be intriguing where this plays out. Here comes Malechka and company, though, right on by.
Oh, I just mistimed it slightly. Stouffer will be second, but he'll be in front of Taylor and Rolf, who are still side by side. In fact, no, Stouffer just about misses out there. This is going to be a fascinating fight down to the line. 10 laps here to go, and the gap between Malechka and Matt Taylor is only 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, the tough part is, though, there is AJ Musselman who is yet to pit as well. That's going to be a buffer car amongst these competitors. They need to fly and quickly to be able to get up there, and Malechka's got clean air for days.
Malechka is still in control, but the gap is coming down. Last time, 1/10 gained by Matt Taylor in the 8. Could we have another first-time winner on the season, or can it be Malechka becoming the only the second repeat winner? Also representing the factory-backed outfit, Rolf is going to make life difficult, and the 33 car sends it deep in through turn 1, unable to get up into a net second position. Almost running into the wall is Matt Taylor. They are costing themselves so much time here, Justin.
Yeah, Taylor kept his foot in it and then some to be able to try and mitigate any of the damage. If anything, they even out some of the time. AJ
Musselman. Sorry, Justin, you cut off there for a second. For AJ Musselman, I do wonder if he can make it on fuel. He's working lap 39 on the stint, but there's only going to be 6 to go at the line here.
I think he's coming in right here, in fact.
Oh, what a shame. He almost managed to drag that AJM consulting car, down into the checkered flag. He will miss out. Cycles Taylor and Rolf back into second and third position. 1.9 the gap between Malechka and Taylor. I think it's a little bit too late for Taylor to do anything to close up the gap to the 91 machine.
Those fresh tires are definitely helping to close up the gap. The problem is Malechka just pulled away that massive gap from before. Unless he gets within the draft to be able to pull him on forward, I think down the straightaways, it's going to be very difficult to get this done in 5 laps.
De Groot should also have to pit then from 5th. He's been out there for 39 and counting. He's down onto the lane this time around as well. So the factory back driver will drop 1 lap down as Vern Hawkins will inherit a 5th position then. Great drive for him. He'll be delighted with a top 5 finish here today. At the line though, here comes Malechka. He's looking good, Justin, to once more get a race victory here today. Only debuted in this series a couple of rounds ago. He had a 100% pole and win victory coming out of Atlanta. Last week was a bit tougher for him at Phoenix, but here on the short track, he has proven to be quite quick today.
Been lightning quick, straight out of the box. One of the quickest drivers in qualifying. Immediately jumped his way inside the top 2. And as it looked back, has been consistent on his marks, has been consistent around the circuit, and as well has executed on the pit lane and pit exit. And that's been the major bullet point for today, Arjuna. All his other competitors, for the most part, have either had to work their way from the back or made mistakes entering or exiting the pit lane. You don't make those mistakes, who knows what we may have seen. We may have seen Taylor up here.
And left side of the screen, you can see the movers and shakers for Rolf and Stouffer. Barnstorming drives to work their way up into the field. Rolf is still hunting, by the way, to try and get second away from Matt Taylor. It is 2 laps to go. White flag in the air next time around. Taylor 1.3 seconds behind. He is not going to be close enough to try and move on Malechka in towards the final lap. The question will be, what can Rolf do to close and try and get a second? His first podium on the cards here. White flag in the air, and Malechka looking odds on for a second victory on the season. Rolf not able to get the momentum down onto the back straightaway. Should give second position to Matt Taylor, but eyes up front, because for the second time this season, we have a repeat winner in the Lionheart Speedway Series, and they represent the factory back team that you want to watch your eyes out for this season, because Malechka takes his victory here at the GraaFix eSports 200, presented by Sim Snap Photography. A race that had it all: strategy, wheel-to-wheel action, but it was the 91, Justin, that started on row number 2, working his way up to the front of the field.
A very impressive drive and a very impressive race. Nailed the strategy, nailed it in qualifying, nailed it on the race pace, and in turn, it was enough to take home the checker flag. What a victory for Factory Back today.
So Malechka once more down into the HyperX victory lane. Let's see what his donuts look like this time around. No concern about fuel saving as well. Oh, just about avoids the contact. Not that second time. Donuts now are going to be a formality as he just rums that car in between the 2 walls. For Factory Back, though, I mean, it's been adrenaline motorsports, Justin, really running away at the front of the sheets here today. They struggled a bit more. Stouffer able to work his way up through the field. Be interesting to see if Factory Back can mount a challenge here on the organization championship.
I think they're going to start clawing their way on forward from this point forward, because both Newsom and Malechka in particular have the speed to be able to perform. It's just a matter of getting the job done, and today for Malechka, he completed the job and then some today.
Only 2 cautions in this race, and after what we saw just 7 days ago, great to see that set a new Lionheart record in the DW12 chassis as well. Here are your Carnox race results. It's Malechka that takes victory after 160 laps. A 1.1 seconds clear of Matt Taylor. Who knows? That could have been a bit closer if Taylor had a little bit more luck on his side, or if Barrett Rolf had been a little bit more accommodating, but Rolf, 15 positions gained, nets his first Lionheart podium. Christopher finishes in 4th, 3rd place in the championship coming into this one, and started at the tail end of the field. Hard charger with 19 positions gained up to 4th. Vern Hawkins completes the top 5, with Mike Rigney in the 00 in 6th. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, it's been a tough season, not just here in the Speedway, but in the IndyCar Series as well. He'll be delighted with a 7th place finish. Trevor Malone, Tony Schowen, and Paul Jenkins rounding out the top 10 for Schowen, the championship leader coming into this race, and victory for him just a week ago. He would have hoped for a little bit more. Jeff Seong 1 lap down along with Charles Teed, AJ Musselman, Michael Hagstrom, Nick de Groot, Alexander Van der Sant, and Alex Guyon. With Matt Houston 2 laps down, Joe Branch had to come down onto pit road in the dying stages of the race. Not sure what happened to him. He'll wind up in 19th. With Alexis Newsom, disappointment for her. She'll finish in 20th after being on pole once more. A pole position, not the place you want to start these races. Dean Moll in 21st with Ken Hacker, Matt Wagner, Chris Fowler, Ron Hacker, and Craig Forsyth rounding out our 26 competitors. What an interesting race, and when you have strategy that plays such a integral part of a race like that, it's always nice to have the green flag run to round it off. Before we head into our post-race interviews, let's dive on into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, the makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. And so in HyperX victory lane for the second time in just 3 weeks, it is the rookie to Lionheart competition, Robert Malechka, and Justin Prince is standing by.
Yes, indeed, and Robert, you had the pace throughout the race today. You had the qualifying run, and in turn, you had the execution through the pit lane. How are you feeling about your run tonight?
Pretty good, yeah. That first, half race, I was kind of just, buying my time, keeping it clean, and then when it mattered, was able to gain some time on pit road and kind of coasted home from there.
Indeed, and how would you describe this racetrack, being able to work your way around this circuit in what was, at some points, an intense few moments for you?
Yeah, it was a tough race, passing-wise. You could race pretty good, at least up front for the first 5-10 laps of the run, and then it just dropped off where you could get within maybe 2/10, and then you'd lose 3/10, and then gain 2/10, and just a domino effect. But other than that, yeah, fresh tires actually mattered, which I was surprised, and was able to kind of carve through lap traffic quite well.
Indeed, and now it's about a few-week break after back-to-back-to-back races. How beneficial is it a break such as this to be able to try and relax and reflect, especially after what's been a dominant start for you in the series?
Personally, I wish we could race next week, but I know with the 500 coming up, that isn't possible. But yeah, a break will be nice. But if it's 2 weeks off or 4 races in a row, I'll always be giving it 100%.
Thank you very much for your time, Robert.
Thank you.
So Robert Malechka once more in victory lane, only the second repeat winner on the season, and as the YouTube chat is saying, factory-backed motorsports are very much becoming a dominant factor in the championship picture. Now let's bring in Matt Taylor of the Team Race First team. He finished today's race in second, almost managed to make some fresh tires work to his advantage, and Justin Prince is standing by.
And Matt, talk us through your strategy as you pushed it as far as you could on the gas, and we're closing in about 1/10 a lap in the closing stages.
Yeah, I kind of paid for, I think, just a couple mistakes on that second to last pit stop. I nearly spun it and kind of did a half spin coming off pit road that easily cost me a second or two, and didn't quite split the fuel appropriately, so I had to wait on tires instead of fuel on that last stop, but almost.
Almost, indeed. 1.1 seconds was the distance between you and the race leader. And overall, how would you describe yourself when it comes to this race in terms of having to fight hard? Because you were fighting hard as well with Barrett Rolfe throughout this race.
Yeah, I think the key tonight was patience, and not getting too far ahead of yourself. I noticed early on I was a little bit further back in the pack, but I could I learned how to set people up so I could make a move without losing the draft ahead or slowing myself down too much. And once I was able to work to the front there, it seemed like Robert and I were about the fastest 2 cars on the track. So I just kind of hung out behind him and just wanted to see where the race was going to take us. And I think I'd have been right there without that little penalty or that little mistake.
Next race goes to Michigan. Your thoughts on going there, 100 laps, 200 miles?
It's going to be a wild one for sure, but thankfully I haven't had any really disastrous finishes thus far, so I do have a couple of drops in my back pocket still, so maybe I can be a little bit more aggressive with a big pack race and see where that takes me.
Thank you very much for the time, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Second place finish then for Matt Taylor. Very impressive in the Rookie Championships. One more interview to get to, and I think Barrett Rolfe will be hoping the next time he speaks to us, Justin, it's in the HyperX victory lane. But third today, and he's standing by with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. And Barrett, you also had some great speed throughout the day today. Talk us through your race.
Yeah, it was really, really tough out there tonight. Huge congrats to Robert pulling off the win there, and also Matt Taylor there in P2. The way the strategies worked out tonight, I was actually chatting with Robert while I was waiting to come in here. We were just kind of discussing back and forth. It was I think anybody's game really. We were thinking about doing the undercut on the second to last stop there, and then Robert did it a lap before us, and so then we were kind of looking at how everything was going to play out at the end. And I gotta send a huge shout out to Manny Tolentino at Ascari Autosport. He's the one that helps me out with my strategy, and we were basically just looking at doing something different to try to pull off the win. So we tried to be cheeky and pit a little bit earlier than everybody else on the last stop, but Matt was able to make the low fuel stop work and get us on tires at the end, and Robert reacted to what we did. So still good night overall, and I'm super happy to pick up the podium.
Of course, in qualifying, though, we have to say you had struggles once more. What do you need to do to improve on the qualifying, especially since you had a crash in the second lap for your Q run?
Yeah, that was totally my fault tonight. I practiced my Q run a couple of times, and the car just felt so good that I decided to go a little bit lower than I had been in the practice, and it just completely washed up the track on me, and I was actually on the brakes by the time I hit the wall. It just wasn't turning, so my bad on that one. I know we've been pretty far down on the qualifying efforts so far this season, but I think we've shown that we can make up in the race for it pretty well, so we're good there. And tonight looked to be good for us points-wise too, so I'm interested to see how things are going to look after this one.
Now the next race goes off to Michigan. Your thoughts on going over there, 100 laps, 200 miles for that race, and where you've been constantly improving your finishing results each week, it seems.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that race, actually. I tend to enjoy the super speedways a little bit more than the short tracks, just because you can make things happen a little bit easier with dirty air and things like that. So I think we'll be pretty strong there.
Thank you very much for your time, Barrett.
Yeah, thank you.
So Barrett Rolfe once more on the podium, 2 more steps, and he'll be on that victory that he oh so wants. Interesting race here today, Justin. And I mean, you asked a couple of their drivers about their thoughts. The next time we will be in action, June 14th, live from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. That's going to be an exciting pack race and a bit of a change given the last couple of races that we've had. A couple of 1.5 milers that raced very interestingly. Before that, you had Milwaukee, the short track, and then more short tracks, Phoenix and Gateway. I like that we're heading into a bit of a run now where we stay at the bigger tracks.
It's going to be an intriguing race, I think, because it's going to be one where slipstream's going to be major. As well, though, it's going to be important to get track position. You're going to see a lot of great battling there, potentially 2-3 wide down some of the straightaways. It'll be an exciting race, to say the very least, on June the 14th.
And that's all building up towards July 22nd, the only race we have in the month of July. Of course, heading to the Brickyard and our second Triple Crown race where double points will be on offer as well. Now, lots of things to look forward to in the Lionheart Speedway Series and the run to Auto Club in December. A bit of a break coming up here then on RaceSpot.tv and ESTV. But of course, if you want to keep up to date with all of the latest comings and goings in the Lionheart series, make sure you follow them across of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the Lionheart series. ESTV has you covered for all of your esports needs. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And well, if you want more sim racing action, including all of the Lionheart series competitions, subscribe to us on YouTube and hit the red button to get notified every single time we go live with the great sim racing series that we get to cover. Before we say goodbye, it's time to say thank you to the friends of the Lionheart Racing Series, and let's start with the title sponsor of the Lionheart Speedway Series, the DMLC Racing Channel. Looking for entertaining sim racing content? Well, look no further than the DMLC Racing Channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing Channel on YouTube and like his Facebook page at the DMLC Racing Channel. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary Ultra Comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15 for 15% off all orders.
The SimXperience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing steering system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire SimXperience ecosystem, visit simexperience.com.
For sim racers, the buttkicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit adds the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? Well, for more information, visit thebuttkicker.com and don't forget to use the promo code LION2021 for 20% off all orders.
Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Your industry-leading gloves are super loud. Whether you're a kart or sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz. Don't forget to also use Minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off orders.
Not just those names, but so many more that power the Lionheart Racing Series. To learn more about the names up on your screen, visit the LionheartRacingSeries.com website, where you can also find the latest comings and goings of all three competitions that the Lionheart sanctioning body puts on. We will have a bit of a break then as we head into the month of May and trackside activities at the Brickyard. Of course, the Indy 500 is coming up, not just in the real world, but here on the iRacing service as well. You can catch uninterrupted coverage of the 12th annual iRacing Indy 500 this coming Saturday, May 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. All live on RaceSpot.tv, and we're delighted to once more be featuring some of the best IndyCar action across the iRacing service. For more Lionheart competition, though, don't look too far. This coming Wednesday, the Lionheart IndyCar Series heads to Mid-Ohio, a track where only champions have won before. No previous race winners are in the field. There will be a new race winner. Will they be a champion? You can find it all live on RaceSpot TV. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. I've been joined, as always, by Justin Prince for an action on Monday nights. TV cameras brought to us by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com, as well as the additional car cameras you've seen in today's action. Live timing and scoring powered by our friends at timing71.org, where you can follow along with the best in the real and virtual worlds of motorsports using their world-class suite of data analysis tools. Lots more action to come then on RaceSpot TV, and we hope you'll join us for all of it. For now, so long and goodbye, and enjoy the rest of the month of May.